So I think everybody come here, especially under such a rain, would be true love to Stella McCartney. 非常欢迎大家来到同济大学设计创意学院来参加我们的这个环同济设计周的活动之一。那今天呢，我们也是这个天气的原因，但是我想天气并不能影响我们这个现场的爆棚。我是同济大学设计创意学院的教授孙杰。这次呢，整个论坛呢会由我来给大家主持。那接下来呢，我想给大家介绍一下，特别是我们今天来的中国的朋友和同学们。Stella McCartney 呢，我想过多的我也不用特别去描述她的背景，但是大家知道，她在毕业于伦敦中央圣马丁学院之后。它的设计一度应该说遭到了很强烈的一个社会的一个反响。那这个社会反响呢，更多是在于它在设计上的一些简洁的形态，以及它充满自信的和它女性的柔性的一个美在设计上的一个表露。那 Stella McCartney 呢，她在2001年也推出了她的同名品牌。时装品牌，并且在10月份的巴黎时装周呢，也发布了它的首个系列。那这个系列当中呢，也包括了女装的成衣、首饰、手包、香水。目前为止，应该说 Stella McCartney 呢，它的整个品牌，从纽约的曼哈顿到伦敦，到我们所知道洛杉矶、巴黎，甚至是北京、上海和米兰，一共有将近47间的精品店。那除此之外呢，也分布在77个国家的将近851个的这个精品专卖店和百货公司。那应该说这么多年的付出，包括 Stella 或者说它的品牌的运作呢，应该说已经相当成功了。但是其实除此之外，除了它的商业成功之外，应该说 Stella 一直在它的可持续领域做出了非常非常多贡献。特别是作为一个女性设计师，有着国际影响力女性设计师，我想她在可持续化的设计，包括可持续化理念的推广，这是有目共睹的。那下面的时间呢，我想邀请Michael Kliger 先生，然后他是这个 Mytheresa 的总裁，同时负责监管公司的战略方向和运营的这个效率。他也推动Mytheresa 在作为这个世界的领先的奢侈品牌，在整个全球化的一个运作。那下面我们有请Mr. Michael Kliger, please.
I stand down.
Okay.
你好, and that's it. I'm very sorry. My Mandarin is very bad. My name is Michael Kliger. I'm the CEO of Mytheresa, and we are proud and delighted to be today here guests of Tongji University, one of the world's leading universities, for this talk. Mytheresa is a multi-brand online retailer. We partner with many prestigious luxury brands in the world to sell them online. And one of our long-standing partners has been Stella McCartney. And we are very proud and delighted that Stella has designed an exclusive capsule for us, of course, true to her brand, a sustainable capsule, which will come out this week. And when we discussed how to celebrate this new high in our partnership, we actually decided to celebrate this coming to Shanghai, coinciding with the Shanghai Fashion Week, which over the last years have grown in popularity but also in importance in the global fashion luxury calendar. The Chinese consumer is very informed, very fast learning, and we thus also feel that coming here, presenting the brand of Stella McCartney and what is behind it in terms of sustainability couldn't be more fitting, because sustainability is at the forefront of today's issues, and we know and hear that it is very much taken up here in Shanghai, here in China, which is excellent and superb. Of course, sustainability is a big topic, a big word. You could put it simply as caring for the environment, and each company, each organization has to identify what is its environmental impact and then to define and find what is the best way to improve Clearly, it's no end state in sustainability. It's about constantly improving, and that's also what we as Mytheresa in our combination try to do, to improve on packaging, on shipping, but also in terms of informing customers about the choice, informing about the ingredients, the materials, and the provenance of the brands and the products. I think one very important topic is that it probably also requires new thinking, and I think you can summarize it quite nicely in something that Albert Einstein once said, is to solve our problems, you cannot use the thinking that you used when you created them. So there needs to be new ways, and I think Stella is a prime example to challenge old ways, find new ways, and we are very proud and very honored that Stella is today here, and she will be partnered for the talk from Shanghai, an expert on sustainability in this region, and I will ask now both to come to the stage and present themselves. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. You guys.
大家好 ，OK， 我接下来就用英文了。OK， I think there's no need for me to introduce who Stella is, so everyone knows. So let's just jump into the questions. So Stella, I was at this super amazing, actually one of the very most unusual gatherings during Paris Fashion Week. It was the night of a show. I think there's about 70, 80 of us gathering at late night at Opera, talking about climate change and extinctions and youth movement. And I think you mentioned something which is very interesting, thing like it seems like a sustainability, especially I also feel this time during Shanghai Fashion Week, it becomes such a quote-unquote fashionable topic now. Everyone's talking about it. We don't know if it's good or bad, but for someone who has been really practicing it for over the decades, or maybe 2 decades, like, what do you think about this? And how do you see the evolution from decades ago until now?
Yeah, you know, I think that we're actually in the perfect place to have this conversation. I know that everyone here is interested in sustainability and in the future of materials and the future of how we work in business for the better of the planet. So yeah, the night before my show in Paris a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to inspire a conversation between some of the Extinction Rebellion members. There's a lot of strikes going on in England at the moment and around the world for the environment, and also some other sustainable and environmentalist friends of mine. And I wanted to open up a conversation that tried to look at the fact that this is the first time in my career, after, as you say, I've been doing this for many, many, many years, that the conversation feels finally to have arrived in the room of fashion. I guess what I'm trying to do is encourage it to not be a trend and to be something that sticks, finally. I believe it can, because I believe that this is something that the future generations of our planet are hugely passionate about and engaged in. But I think, you know, whether this is a trend in my industry or not, I think it's fine. You know, I'm very much one that wants to encourage the conversation across all industries and also encourage the thought process that something is better than nothing. I think that in fashion we're very extreme and we can kind of judge people very quickly. And for me, I think if we're having the conversation, I think we need to be talking about solutions and encouraging people that you don't have to sacrifice any of your style for sustainability. So for me, yeah, this is a hot topic, but I think it's a hot topic in general in the world, and it's time that the fashion industry woke up and became part of the conversation.
Yeah, well, I totally agree, like, it's better than nothing, like, people start discussing it, but it could be also a pitfall, like, people don't know what they're talking about. So I think it would be great for you to lay out some framework, like when we are talking about sustainability or when you are talking about sustainability, what is it? Like which are the pillars or things you really cares about and everyone should be really focused on?
Well, I mean, that's a long, I can stay here all week to talk about that. But, you know, for us at Stella McCartney, my eyes were opened at a very early age. I was brought up on an organic farm as a vegetarian. So when I went into the fashion industry, I didn't want to kill animals. So animal cruelty was at the core of everything I did. And actually, it turned out that now animal agriculture is one of the biggest destructors of planet Earth. So the fashion industry obviously is part of that conversation. It's not just food, it's also handbags and shoes and leather coats and leather trousers. And it's also the glue that we use in the fashion industry is boiled down fish bones or animal bones in general. And there are many, many chemicals, of course, attached to tanning leather. It's a naturally biodegradable material, as we know. When we die or when animals die, we naturally biodegrade. But obviously, handbags today stick around for hundreds and hundreds of years. So there are chemicals involved in that process. So, you know, leather probably has the biggest impact environmentally in a positive way, by not using leather or fur or feathers or skins in any way.
Can you explain to us a little bit about why leather is the most, because a lot of people think you don't use it just because you love animal. I think there's much more solid reasons behind it, right?
Well, again, it comes back to the farming of animals. You know, basically, in order to raise a cow to make a handbag or a beef burger, you have to cut down part of your Amazon rainforest, all of our Amazon rainforests, actually, including the cow's Amazon rainforest. So we have to make way to farm animals, and sadly, we cut down billions of trees. We use millions of tons of water to give water to the animal, which we could use, of course, directly with people in famine situations or drought situations on Earth. The grain that we use to feed the animal could be fed to people. So it's an incredibly inefficient and unsustainable product, essentially. It's not a friendly product to farm, without even thinking about the quality of life for the people that have to actually kill the animals. What are they paid? What is that like as a job? You know, it's not a job that I personally think any of us want to do for a living. So it's not only sustainable, but for me, it's not ethically or morally a good industry. The chemicals, as I said, you know, there's a lot of chemicals involved in the tanning process. And when you do so what I do, for example, this is a non-leather shoe. Animal agriculture is currently responsible for around 18% of the gas, you know, emissions on the planet. So we don't engage in any of that. We don't have to cut down trees for the materials that I use. I use a vegetable coating. And you know, there's a lot of alternatives now that are available. We don't have to do it anymore. It's not modern anymore.
Well, I think this is a great point. And also, like, I think it's very interesting to when you think about sustainability, it's not just a hot topic or practice. I mean, for me, the most fascinating way is like, it's kind of linked you together back with the whole ecology. Like, we are part of the environment. What we do doesn't only impact us, it impacts so many other things. So everything has become a systems. And when you think about that, you will think, wow, this is the most interesting and beautiful way to understand fashion. So you talk about there's so many things you cannot use. So what can you use? I'm sure your company is doing a lot of innovation. Like I heard about a term like auto napas or
well, I can tell you actually, this is my last show. This is that dress that you just saw was completely upcycled. So it was made out of hundreds of cut up vintage t-shirts, and we knitted them back together. So that was completely circular, that one piece. This is a sustainable viscose that we developed at Stella McCartney. A conventional viscose. Does anyone know where viscose comes from? Don't you guys answer, because I've told you guys already, or some of you might know. But does anybody here know where it's rayon in America or viscose? Does anybody know where that material, how it's made? That's a no. So it is made from cutting down trees. In the fashion industry, we use about 10 materials, really, over hundreds of years. So that in itself is pretty old-fashioned. But viscose, sadly, it comes from around 150 million trees are cut down every year for the fashion industry. And what we did at Stella McCartney is we developed a sustainable viscose. But we developed that. We weren't really incentivized by any government or the industry. We just, I just felt very strongly that we needed to replant a tree if we cut down a tree. So we managed to create that supply chain. There's around 60% of the positive impact we have at Stella McCartney on the environment is talking about the supply chain. But these are all from the sustainable viscose. And, I believe very strongly you shouldn't have to sacrifice any style for sustainability.
Yeah, I think you believe working with some sustainable forests in Sweden. Right? And
this
so
is the viscose too. But we are one of the few houses, if not the only house, currently sourcing in that way. So I'm sort of here to encourage everyone to join me.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll come back to that later. It's about like the difficult and challenges about developing all this material on your own, and then about collaboration. But since we're talking about materials, what about cotton? Because a lot of people will think, oh, green fashion, environmental friendly, that's where cottons. Is cotton sustainable or not? And how do you use cotton?
Well, I mean, any crop that isn't farmed in an organic way is not terribly sustainable. It uses pesticides. It's like any unorganic food, for example. It's the same if you're farming an unorganic crop in the fashion industry. But no, an organic cotton is obviously a lot more sustainable. It's a lot better for the soil. What we do at Stella McCartney is we go one step further. So we work now with biodynamic farming. We try to encourage our suppliers to actually look at the soil around the organic cotton. So not only farm it in an organic way, but also put nutrients back into the soil. There's also an area of the soil that basically holds the oxygen in it. And once you dismantle a certain depth, it's very destructive. So, we're talking about farming, really. The fashion industry is hugely connected, obviously, to our soil and to the planet, and if we can farm it a better way, then cotton is good. But it's also it's a very fragile crop in an organic way because you're dealing with the environment too. You're dealing with, weather.
Yeah, that's totally true. So let's just go through all the materials. So what about wool, alpacas, cashmeres? I think you also have a very specific policy about using all the things.
Yeah, we don't use any Angora, but that comes back to my animal cruelty. Angora are cute little rabbits, so I don't really want to beat them up just to make a jumper. Cashmere is really, really cruel, not only to the goat, but also, again, the soil. When you're talking about animal agriculture, which is what we're talking about, the nutrients are not going back into the soil. And it's not because anybody's intentionally doing this. The fashion industry isn't it's not a mean industry, it's quite a cruel industry to the animals, but I think it's just a sort of lack of knowledge, and obviously at Stella McCartney, we ask questions every single day and we try and provide solutions. So we now know that the cashmere industry is cruel, but also the nutrients are not going back into the soil. So we use regenerated cashmere, so it's all of the offcuts on the floor. But actually, we're more and more going to alpaca because alpaca is a really sustainable yarn and they're really friendly. You can just shave them it's really... we're also very, very... we're very mindful of following our source train. So we're absolutely, we're adamant and... we very much look at where we're getting things at Stella, and that's a huge investment both in time and obviously in money. This is a fake fur, which is really interesting because I know there's a lot of conversation about real fur being better for the environment than fake fur. That's just not true. If you remove the fact that it's quite a dark industry, it's also about sort of 20 times more environmentally friendly of fake fur. But we at Stella have just developed and launched a couple of weeks ago in Paris a fake fur that took us about 1.5 years, which is just made from corn. It's a plant-based fake fur, and it's completely biodegradable. So those are the kind of things we're doing at Stella, and it's really, it's not only exciting, but for me, it's the future of fashion. I know many of you here, this is what excites you, right? This, for me, is as creative as designing. And for me, the two going hand in hand is really when you can have a better business.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, it also sounds very exciting when can you imagine you wear a fur coat when you don't want it? You just put it on the ground and it biodegrade, and then next year it grow out some, I don't know, crops or flowers. It's all in your whole like ecosystems. So what about innovations? Because I know you're working with a company called Bothread. What is it?
Yeah, for us, technology is a really exciting part of the conversation. For some reason, I may be weird, but I find tech like kind of sexy in fashion. When I go to San Francisco, when I come to this part of the world, I'm so excited about looking at meats grown in laboratories or leather grown in labs. I mean, for me, that would really solve a lot of our problems. If we can speed up and scale that out and make it cost effective, we could really solve a lot of the environmental issues that we have. But yeah, we work with a company called Bolt Threads. They're based in New York. They used to be in San Francisco. And they're working on spider silk, so growing silks in labs. Spider silk is one of the most strong silks and threads in the world. So people have been trying to mimic it for many, many years. But they're working on, on genetically, on DNA, and they grow it on yeast. And it's fascinating. I think it's so exciting. I mean, this, I hope, will be the answer to many of the issues we all now face. I think for whatever reason, which comes back to your first question, if anyone in this room can solve the problem we have, for example, with plastic, they're going to be really rich really quick. So, for me, it's like these are the kind of problems people should be setting their minds to, not only to help our planet, but hopefully there can be an incentive in another way also.
Yeah, well, I think exactly because a lot of people misunderstanding sustainability is philanthropy or charity, but it's actually when it's done right, it's very good for the business because consider about the scarcity of a material, so that's why you invent all these things. So, and then, but on the other side, which is like talking about business model, because we talk about innovations, right? So you mentioned about material, the dyeing process. How about business model? Any innovative business model you might have, or you suggesting, or you're thinking about?
Well, I mean, for sustainability in the fashion industry, well, yeah, I mean, I've always had a goal to make it look effortless so that you wouldn't know this is a non-leather shoe or you wouldn't know that this is a sustainable viscose, that you would come to me and I would stand shoulder to shoulder with my competitors. And therefore, I would have a healthy business to make and encourage other people to join this way of working. But as far as the fashion industry goes, I mean, fast fashion, sadly, is a huge contributor to the problems we have on the planet. We are one of the most harmful industries to the environment. Every single second, a truckload of fast fashion is either burnt or buried. And they say it's worn less than 3 times before it's thrown away. This, for me, creates an incredibly exciting business opportunity because I'm always trying to make everything positive. It's around $500 billion worth of waste that we're talking about every year. Now, we've been working with a company called Evernew. They take a cotton product, they break it down in a sustainable way, and we completely there's a circular economy. So we just did that for the show. We also work on it with our Adidas collaboration. So we're breaking down waste into a new fiber and we're creating a new product. Now that's the future of a business model for us in our industry. Also renting, fashion, resale, vintage, charity fashion. For me, these are all incredible opportunities now to encourage people to think outside of the box, And when you're young, surely you want more than just going to, the same old, same old. You want to create new rules and change things.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was thinking we were just discussing the other day about like a new puzzle, especially for a designer and luxury brand. I would love to see like the Stella McCartney in 2009 or 2010 to be able to have it right now. I don't always want to just the latest collection. I mean, it will be even more valuable. Yeah. So I think for a lot of like luxury brand can do that. But I do think like the problem is really on the fast fashion. Yeah. But that's a very big fashion. That's a very big business sector. So do you have any suggestion for them? Because they cannot just say one day, okay, now I'm going to start all my business, because they also have employee and all those things. But
yeah, of course.
How can they slow down, or is there anything they can do?
Well, I mean, they can source in a better way. Mm-hmm. They can source their materials in a better way, and they can therefore create a demand for a better material. I don't use PVC, for example, at Stella McCartney. That's a petroleum-based plastic which can be cancerous to the people working with it, and obviously it's oil. You're talking about an oil-based product. The fast fashion industry can just cut out PVC and then create more demand for, for a non-PVC sequin. And it means that my prices on sourcing a non-PVC sequin can drop and we can all have a better product. I think that if the fast fashion industry can change its sourcing, then some of the questions are answered immediately. But, it is easier said than done, but I'm here to show everyone it is doable.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But we also have a question like, why, after so many years, there's only one Stella McCartney? Do you see more hope in the younger generations? I think also now, like, all of a sudden, there's a lot more younger designers who are curious or interested and even committed to be more sustainable. So
yeah, I think that this is, look, we are faced with a grave reality right now, and climate crisis is something we are all connected, sadly, by this reality, and there may not be a million Stella McCartneys, but the future of any entrepreneur is this. Anybody that is ballsy enough and in a position to make their own brand or their own product, then they have to do it with this kind of conscience and this kind of starting point. But it's not only that. I feel very privileged to be a woman in fashion that has this perspective and has this belief system. I've been very lucky to have a business that is able to work in this way. But this is the future of employment too, because I'm one of the few industries, the few people in the fashion industry that works this way. And I think more and more people that want to work in fashion want to work in this kind of business. I think the youth of today they want to have their morals met from home in the workplace. I think many people are thinking about what they eat, how they travel, how they conduct themselves in life, and they want to take that into their work. And really, the big businesses in fashion need to consider that, and the people leading the decisions need to make their businesses a more attractive place for the future talent to come and work in.
Yeah. I think, there's more and more, we'll get with that. Because I'm actually really curious since last time in the opera. I'm like, why, do you think there's a linkage between femininity, sustainability, and creativity? Why is almost everybody who is fighting for the cause of sustainability are women? From the designers, activists, journalists, NGO, almost all women.
Hey, I don't really know. Speaking as a woman, it's funny, when I did my round table conversation the night before my show, unintentionally it was a lot of women. And one of the gentlemen that I had on my panel looked around and he was like, well, it's always women. We have nearly 90% women at Stella McCartney, and we love men. Don't get me wrong, I love men. But I don't know. I guess it's called Mother Earth for a reason, right? I think that we are, I don't know, I'm a mother, so I know that, but I don't really know the answer to that question. My husband is as passionate and loving and caring for our babies as I am.
That reminds me, I think, the motherhood,
because... they sit inside there for a while. Maybe we have a...
Because I was interviewing Mr. Pinot the other day, and I said, why do you make all this decision to lead? It's so difficult to lead the whole group towards this. He said, of course, one has to do with upbringing. I didn't know his mother was an ecologist. So he was, from early on, he has all this idea and concept. So.
Well, this is how we evolve. You guys are the ones that get to take this microphone off me and teach the next generation. We just need to make sure that we have a healthy planet for everyone to grow up on.
Okay. And can we talk a little bit about the designer, especially people like you's public responsibility? I think you're the ambassador of a UN fashion, the charter for fashion industry to fight climate change, and I think there's more and more this kind of correlation. People need thinking collaboration is kind of key to push the agenda forward. So what do you think? Why are you taking on this role, and what kind of message are you trying to convey? And what kind of
goal
do you want to
taking on this
achieve?
role is probably the best question ever. I have no idea. punishment, glutton for punishment, my mother used to say. You know, the interesting thing, and this is really the most important part of the conversation, is we all need policy change. You know, I think that the reason that there are strikes going on all around the world right now, you know, talking about and crying out for climate crisis, is because we need governments to make policy change. And, you know, we need to consume in a way that's going to just teach people that they will not stand for these products anymore, or this way of business. But policies need to change, and I think it came about really that in the fashion industry there are really no guidelines that can prevent you from working with PVC, killing animals in a certain way, using certain chemicals, using, you know, cutting down trees for viscose. There's so many things that need to be, you know, there need to be laws set in place. I also believe very firmly that you need incentives. You need to be incentivized starting a new business. You know, I export my non-leather products into America, and I get taxed up to 30% more because they're a non-leather good. Now, I don't put that on my customer. I hide that in my margin, but surely I should be incentivized for doing a non-leather good. And people that bring in a leather good should have a penalty in tax. It's like it seems totally screwed up. But it feels very old-fashioned.
Yeah, so we need to, well, from the education awareness, then all the practice and all the way to the policy. So let's just have the last little questions, like taking your wildest imagination. Like, what do you think fashion industry or fashion brand will be in the very near futures? Because, I mean, no one says fashion industry should be just only about clothes and handbag, right? So what could it be?
Well, you know, I think it's a creative industry. It's led by creativity, so I think that it could be anything. I think it's going to be more about community, bringing people together as opposed to making people feel alienated or bad about themselves. You know, I like to encourage, one of the main reasons I actually wanted to be a fashion designer, believe it or not, before I wanted to save the planet, was I wanted to just make women feel better about themselves. You know, I've had a real feeling that the fashion industry at a luxury level sort of made people feel bad about themselves, made them feel too fat or too skinny or too this or too that. And I think that the future of fashion hopefully can bring people together. We can share our clothes, we can rent our clothes, we can create some kind of reward system. We can look at technology. For me, the circular economy is really the future of fashion in this conversation. Taking all that waste and making it into business is like, that's the biggest opportunity and also the best benefit for the business.
That's great. So I think the rest of the question I will just give it back to the students, because I also want to hear what kind of advice you have for them. So I might as well let them to ask themselves.
What advice they have for me. I hope you guys are going to help me out a little bit.
Okay. So I'll give the microphone to Mr. Sun Jie. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, she's gone now. I'm all on my own.
Hey.
Oh, it's okay. Well, there's only 2 chairs. I'm not going to sit on a table.
Thank you very much, Xiaowei. Well, Xiaowei is one of the most influential Well, everybody knew that Xiaowei is one of the most important and influential KOL in the field, in fashion, especially for Chinese-speaking regions. So I think the questions was very interesting from material perspective, even from a women perspective. Of course, I mean, in here, the place we're all sitting, in Tongji University, in College of Design Innovation, me as a professor, but also the other colleague of mine, we deal a lot with sustainability, the subject. So in other sense, we also talk about sustainability and creative leadership. You as designer, you know, nowadays the world changing dramatically, let's say. And design is not just design anymore. You also as kind of like speaker or kind of from a field or from not only as a designer, but with more people behind of you. So what do you think about the issue that when you as a creative leadership and for the designers or the people who is working in design field, and do you have any kind of suggestion for them, which is not from the material perspective, but from a leader perspective?
Creatively, purely creatively. You know, I think it's about allowing the creative process to be the star of the show. allowing enough time for creativity. I'm in a very relentless industry. The fashion industry has less and less time available now to be creative. So if you are in a position to have time at a moment in the beginning of your career, then respect that, celebrate that. You know, the days of research seem so far gone for me, and they were, you know, they're so important. And I think just really enjoy that process. Work as a team, you know, it's really important. At Stella, we rely on each other. It's such teamwork. None of it can happen without the team. And consider every single part of the process.
So do you think the education itself also need to think about this issue, which is not just about designer to deal with material sustainability way of understanding, but also as how the designer could perform as educator to the public? Do you have any point? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone in a position where they have a voice, you should be trying to create a better platform for people to learn from. You know, I think that fashion is an amazing, you know, I love fashion, but I think there's more to it than possibly a lot of people use the platform to talk about. You know, I personally can only talk about the length of a hemline or the next sort of trend in a color for so long. I can't do that for, you know, 20, 30, 40 years. Like, I don't think it's as important as some other things. But obviously it's a huge part of the process, and it needs to remain fun and exciting. But I think now there's more to talk about. It's more about transparency and more about you know, information. If you guys are engineers and you're young designers and you're young creators, you can talk about more today because there's more ways to talk about what you do, and there's more ways for people to hear about what you do.
It's a very nice reaction. I think this conversation has been, I mean, developed very well, and I think you have been sharing a lot of resources about the issue and present you, you know, and your brand here. So I think the rest part, I would like to give some of the opportunities to our audience to give you some questions. So is there anybody who have questions?
Good.
So you can pick one maybe.
It'd be really embarrassing if you didn't. Thank you. I would give you my mic, but I might need it. Okay. Do you want to give her your microphone? No? Anybody? Oh.
Well, there's another.
It's you first then. You have the mic.
Okay. Actually, my question is very basic. As you know, most of the brands, like they're doing their productions in China, Vietnam, and South Asian countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India. And these countries are really polluted. So how can we educate young designers to control this kind of pollution? Like, what do we need to add sustainability course in their scheme of studies or what? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I believe so. But, you know, even I went to an art school called Central St. Martin's in London. And when I was there, the course was very basic. And now they have a sustainability fashion course. And yeah, I believe this conversation should be part of everyone's education. If you want to go into business full stop, you should be responsible for your impact. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But this again comes back to policy. I think that people need to be respected as part of the process. At Stella McCartney, we have a very strict, you know, mantra that we adhere to, and people are paid decent wages, and they're given decent places to work, and you know, that's the luxury of luxury fashion, if you like. But there's a lot of luxury houses that are not actually really respecting a code of conduct also. So yeah, I mean, morals are a big part to play in the conversation, aren't they, in general? That comes to any industry.
Thanks a lot.
Hi, Stella. Why you never change a thing? Like every time I see you after years, you never change a thing. It feels like we do live in a different planet.
Oh. I guess, you know, the reason I've been doing, I'm maintaining this line of action because it's like I'm so passionate about it.
I really feel that way. Okay, but my real question is, you always give us so much like surprises every single season, and as like an influencer in fashion, I know how much work it could be, but who gave you all this kind of like inspirations? Where all your ideas come from?
Well, we have considering how small we are, relatively speaking, we have quite a large sustainability department at Stella McCartney. And so that's really a key role for them as they look at new technology. We're challenging our suppliers every single day. You know, the corn fake fur, for example, we worked for about 1.5 years with our suppliers, and we said we really need to do this in a better way. And we work with them. We have sustainable conferences every year with our suppliers. And sometimes we have to push really, really hard, and sometimes people are receptive, and sometimes they're not. But I think part of our job is to challenge the norm and to change the current situation in fashion.
Thank you, and I have that jacket actually. Thank you so much.
Good. Oh, cool.
Okay, I think we'll give you one more question to the maybe audience behind.
Is it my turn now or not really? Okay. Hi, Stella. This is Jia from Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So we've been doing circular economy, and we will have a circular economy day during Tongji Design Week as well. So yeah, it's very lucky for me. And also, I'm a big fan of you. I follow your conversation with Kirsty Young from Desert Island Disc. So I know about Linda McCartney and about your vegetarian, lots of things. So I think my question is actually two. So when you talk about circular economy, you talk about you grow materials in a restorative and regenerative way. What I'm thinking is we have, you know, a lot of small circle, but how can we have a big circle? Not only one brand, not only one product. Doing business in a circular way is about the whole economy, the whole supply chain doing in a circular way. So how can we, you know, scale it up really from one brand to the whole industry? Second question is really around the fashion industry is very fragmented. So we have designers sitting in a gorgeous house in Paris or in London, and also we have, you know, manufacturers based in China or Bangladesh countries. So it seems like there is quite a gap in between. How can the message of circular economy and sustainability can really, you know, be disseminated to manufacturers in those developing countries? And then how can the, you know, leading designers help those manufacturers to, you know, keep up with that mindset? So that's my two questions. Thank you very much.
Whoa. Thank you. By the way, Ellen MacArthur's foundation is absolutely fantastic. You're very lucky to be working there. They're doing great, great work. The circular economy is obviously, you know, one of the answers to all of this. If we can create that, we're in good shape. Look, you know, for me, the best way to achieve all of this is all of you. You know, I believe in power to the people. I believe that the reason we're having this conversation now is because businesses can no longer ignore what people in the future will require as a basic standard. You know, we're going to ask more questions. We're going to expect better answers. And, you know, hopefully the world is heading in the right direction. That's really, it's a basic answer, but I believe in people, and I think that with more and more information that we have access to, that we have to fight for more transparency. We have to ask harder questions. We have to consume in a more conscious way. And by doing that, the people that make the business decisions, they're forced into supplying a product that we're going to want to buy. Otherwise, they have no business.
All right. I think you must be already tired. So many questions. At the end, I think, I mean, of course, it's not, at least it's not the end for the topic we're going to talk about, but I think sustainability, I mean, is kind of trendy. Like the audience asked you, why you always talk about issue? I think when you were talking at the beginning, the word is still kind of slipping. But now you're still talking about issue, and you can see the word all industry, all everybody from all fields start to talk about the issue. So which is, I think that you're already going really, really advanced. Well, to continue and the subject, I wish, and of course I give the best wishes to Stella McCartney, also to you, and to bring this subject to get to let the more designers, also more people to understand why fashion is sustainability. So shall we end here for now?
But again, I want to thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor for me to be here and talk about this, and the fact that you're all listening. Nobody, I think, has fallen asleep. And I don't feel like a freak in the room, because this, a couple of years ago, it's a weird subject for people. So I'm excited for this to be the future of fashion. Thank you for having me.
And thank you very much, and to come to Tongji University, to College of Design Innovation. And thank you for Michael to support the events, and thank you, Xiaoye. And maybe we could come up? Okay. And of course, I'm gonna turn to Chinese. 大家知道啊，在大陆，在中国，我们有一种习惯叫结束后总有彩蛋。那今天呢，我们也为大家准备了一个彩蛋，是什么呢？你们每个人手上都有个包，等一会儿呢，咱们可以在右边，来排队等候，Stella McCartney 他会给大家签字，亲自在你们的bag 上给你们签字。So I'm gonna speak to English. So everybody who having a bag here on your chair, you will be able to get the chance of the signature of Stella McCartney.